Are you looking for a way to scale your short-term rental business and buy more properties? Well, co-hosting might be the right fit for you. Welcome to the Co-Host Coach podcast with Joe Roney. This episode of the Co-Host Coach is brought to you by Savvy STR Agents. If you're looking to buy a short-term rental, then contact the STR Savvy Agent team at savvy.realty.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Co-Host Coach. I am Joe Roney, and today we are going to discuss some of the new rules and policies that Airbnb has come out with most recently. So everyone's probably received the email. You've probably seen it all over social media. Everyone's talking about it. So let's just kind of dive into a few of the things that have come out. Number one, security deposits. So Airbnb has come out that said people aren't allowed to collect security deposits. Well, technically, that's always been a rule that you can't collect security deposits on the Airbnb app. That is not the case if you are API connected and you're sending your security deposits through your API connection and getting whether you're doing a full deposit or a hold, it doesn't matter. If you're using a property management software, Hospitable or OwnerRez, Hostfully, if your PMS system allows you to send not just rental agreements, but security deposit requests, you can still do that. However, it needs to be in your listing, and it needs to be in your listing in multiple places. It needs to be in your listing in your body, of that you talk about it. It needs to be in your house rules. Really important that it's in your house rules. And then it also should show up at checkout when they go to actually check out, saying that you're going to be charging an additional security deposit. So it's really important that in every single one of your listings that you're going through and making sure, especially if you're a co-host, because if you're a co-host, it's not just like you have one account. You're going through each listing and making sure each one is set up and making sure that you fully have it on, in there. It's talked about. What Airbnb is really wanting you to make sure that you aren't doing is hiding. They don't want you to be doing something that is not disclosed. So it's just better to be full disclosure upfront, letting guests know before they check out that this is something that you require and that is something that they're going to have to do outside of the platform when they complete the booking. For me, I send the rental agreement and the security deposit both within 24 hours of the booking. Usually about 6 hours after the booking is when those emails go out. I don't send it immediately. Give them a little bit of time so they can at least get the first initial message, and then a few hours later come the security deposit, and then a little later the rental agreement. All of it comes again within a few hours of them booking. But you want to make sure all of that stuff goes out. At least that's what works for me. And I do ask them to complete those things within 24 to 48 hours. Technically, it states within 48 hours. That way, we know we're set. All those security deposits are set up, and it's ready to go. Now, it doesn't actually charge the security deposit till the day before they actually check in, but it does have it all set up. My virtual assistant can go in and validate that each booking each week has all of the rental agreements and security deposits all done. So disclose. That's the name of the game here. So shifting gears, the other policy, that Airbnb has come out with is, and they're getting really strict on, is not directing your guests to a direct booking website. Now, there's multiple different things of this, and I just had a booking inquiry today where they said, hey, I'd like to book your house for this summer for $8,000, but Airbnb is charging me $1,000 in fees. How do I book your place without having to, pay those fees? And then she asked me if I would reduce my price by $1,000 to cover those Airbnb fees. Well, that's not the way things work. And the last thing I can do is say, oh, yes, go to, my Vacation Rental website or my property website and book it there. Obviously, we're going to get our listing shut down really quick if we do anything like that. I think one of the reasons why Airbnb is doing this is I truly believe Airbnb is feeling the pinch of Vrbo getting a lot more bookings this spring and summer. And they had a lot of negative publicity about their former CEO who is supporting Doge or involved in Doge, whatever it is. It's really kind of silly, but the media can blow things out of proportion, and it can really affect people and their decisions on who they do business with and how it goes. So I truly believe Airbnb, for the first time in a long time, is feeling a little bit of a pinch, and we'll find out during those first quarter earnings that'll be coming out soon to see. And I think that's why some of these policies are rolling out, because they want to make sure that people are booking through the platform. So the couple things they're wanting you to book through the platform. Number one, if you are charging for pool heat or pet fees or anything that you're charging, they do not want you to charge the guest outside of Airbnb. They want you to charge inside the platform. So you're going through the actual request through Airbnb to request those additional fees. So I have multiple pools that I co-host, or properties that have pools that I co-host. I am selecting to, we have their security deposit, their credit card info. We could directly charge them for that, but Airbnb wants it to go through their app. Number one, they're going to get charged. They're going to get paid their fees, right? Because they're still charging their 15% on that. So they're going to get a little bit of extra income. They can also track that you're not charging anything that's off or, not supposed to be there. They really want you to do everything on the Airbnb app. So if you're going to charge additional fees for anything, whether it be pool heat or concierge service or, whatever it may be, they want all of that completed on the app. Now, there's some questions about that with companies like Hostco, that have different concierge things that are integrated with Airbnb and how that's going to work. And I think there's still some areas that we don't have the full answers on, but that's something that we definitely want to kind of keep an eye on and make sure that we are, staying on top of. I am sure more information is going to continue to come out about this. You can talk to your local Airbnb ambassador if you have any questions as well. Most major markets have an Airbnb ambassador, and they will be able to get you some additional information on that. So for the fees that you're charging, Airbnb wants you to charge that on the platform. They want your security deposits to be, very open, make sure they're fully disclosed and everything is there. The last thing that, a big part of it is, how are you collecting data and to be able to remarket to your guests? And can you continue to still do that? And how do you get your direct booking website out to the guests? Well, we all know we can't do that on the Airbnb app, right? We are not, taking the Airbnb messaging and sending them our direct booking website. That is not something that we do. Can you have signs in your house with your direct booking website, QR codes, anything along those lines? Yes. They're after all, they're visiting your house, and Airbnb can't dictate what you have in your house to be on their platform. I mean, it can in a way. I mean, you got to be able to have a legal house. Like, you can't have cameras in the bathroom, but they can't come and tell you they can't have certain signage or you can't collect any data. One of the things that we talked about on my mastermind call today is digital guidebooks. So a lot of us use, whether you're using TouchStay or Markham STR or Hostfully, there's different digital guidebooks that are sent. And ours are actually sent through the app, through the messaging. I send them about 7 or 8 days before the guest arrives. I send them the digital guidebook. So they have everything they need for their trip. It tells them everything that's in the kitchen. It tells them all the local places, the grocery stores, all that kind of stuff, so they can plan and have everything ready to go. And that's great. But one of the things that's in that digital guidebook is, come back and see us again, and had my direct booking website on it. Airbnb does not want you to have your direct booking website promoted on their app. And if you're sending your TouchStay or your digital guidebook through their app and it has your direct booking website, you could get flagged. So this is an area that you definitely want to think about. I've gone and deleted our direct booking website on every single one of our digital guidebooks. So I no longer have that in there at all. So, just want to make sure that any communication that you're sending through the Airbnb app doesn't have that kind of stuff on there at all. So all that's gone. The last thing that we're going to really talk about is StayFi. or how you're collecting data. It doesn't have to be StayFi. You might have a QR code in your property that collects their email addresses to remarket to. I know I have over 2,000 email addresses. I'm sending over 2,000 emails every month now to my former guests to get them to come back and rebook. And we're doing that across every property that we own or we co-host. Now, on StayFi, we have it selected that they have to opt in. So when they're at the house to get onto our Wi-Fi, they've got to use StayFi. They've got to enter their name and email, and then they have to select the box that whether they yes want to be remarketed to or no they don't. So that is really important that you have that in there and that you're doing that. So if you're using a QR code to collect emails or anything like that, there's got to be a way for them to opt in and opt out for marketing. So now this is obviously a little bit harder way for Airbnb to come after you and shut your listing down, but you just want to make sure you're following the rules. At the end of the day, Airbnb is the Google of vacation rentals, right? 90%, not 90%, but probably 75 to 80% of my bookings are through Airbnb. And that's across all platforms. Now, some of my more luxury houses, I'm getting probably a little more in Verbo. And then obviously our direct bookings are growing year in and year out as we grow. But the majority is still through Airbnb. Airbnb is the Google of vacation rentals. So, you know, in some ways they're making it harder on us as hosts. And I know it's really easy to get frustrated, with a platform. And sometimes we have to take ourselves out of our shoes and put ourselves in their shoes. And they have a brand to protect. They have a company to protect. And at the end of the day, this is their business. I mean, this is their livelihood as well. And we are using their platform in order to make money. So when you're using somebody else's platform to be able to be, make money and to be in business, you kind of have to stick by their rules. And sometimes it sucks. And sometimes we disagree with their rules. And a lot of times they side with the guest over the host. And it's frustrating. It can be really frustrating. But, with anything, there's pros and cons, there's ups and downs. So you just have to take that with a grain of salt and really understand, what's going on. And they're, as a company, making some mistakes and some things they're doing great. I will tell you that I just went through bringing on a co-hosting client that they actually self-managed and they had their own owner res. And for me to disconnect the Airbnb from theirs and API connect it to mine literally took 30 minutes. Like probably not even that. 5-10 minutes. And we were able to click a couple buttons, disconnect, switch it over, bring it onto mine. We are 30 days into it, and I'm just now getting Verbo finally integrated because, you know, they just don't have the technology. And, instead of it clicking a button, it's got to go to a specialist, and that specialist is only available so many days a week. And they messed up a couple things. So we're finally today, I got the notification that we finally are 100% integrated with that Verbo. So we're able to, collect all the funds to ourselves and the whole work. So, but it was a long process. So there are some pros and cons to every platform. Airbnb, when it comes to technology, is by far light years ahead of anybody else. And it is an easy platform to use. We just have to abide by their rules and make sure we're not stealing business from them on their platform. You wouldn't, if you were opening up a bar 2 doors down, you wouldn't walk into the bar 2 doors down and announce to everyone that they need to come to your bar and steal their employees or anything like that, right? That's not how you do business. Same thing with Airbnb. You have to treat it that way, that you're using their platform to be successful and make money, and they're helping you in a lot of ways. So I know it can be frustrating. It can be frustrating for all of us sometimes on some of the rules and some of their policies, but really go through and read what that email stated and make sure you truly understand everything you want to do. The last thing I'm going to leave you with today is, what's your safeguard? So what I mean by that is, if Airbnb shut down your listing today, how would you be able to manage the rest of your portfolio? Now, you may only have one property. You may have 10. You may have 100 properties. But if your main listing was shut down and Airbnb came in and said you were not following the rules and we're giving you a 2-week suspension or a 30-day suspension or a lifetime ban. How are you managing it? So, one of the things that we're doing is adding my wife on to be an additional co host. She's been on one property, but I am adding her on every property that we co host with her own Airbnb account. So, if anything were to happen to mine, we could shift gears, create, make her the primary host, and still be able to manage that platform. And it's really important to have that safeguard because you never know. At the end of the day, we're at the mercy of, you know, whoever at Airbnb and wherever they live that are making some decisions that may or may not benefit us. So, just something to think about as you're growing your business and, continuing to crush it. You need to have that safeguard set up. So, quick recap: security deposits, disclose, disclose, disclose. If you're collecting money on anything, pool heat, pet fees, whatever, do it through the Airbnb app. And if you are sending out communication, make sure you're not sending communication out about your direct booking website anywhere on the Airbnb app, even if it's in a digital guidebook. So, important things to think about as you are moving forward and growing your business. We are now in April. We are past Easter. Like, we are going right into peak season. So your calendar should be filling up. I've picked up like 6 bookings in 2 days and it's feeling great. The summer's looking good. So let's have a really awesome summer season and make sure that we're following some of those Airbnb rules. Thanks for joining me this week. And until next time, we will see you on the Co-Host Coach.